In this video, we're going to discuss how individual transfer quotas can be used to prevent overfishing. So we've discussed how common resources tend to be overused. And if we take the ocean as an example, we think about how fishermen have an incentive to continue to add boats even beyond the point that is socially optimal. And the reason is that when a fisherman decides to say, hey, I'm going to add an extra boat, I want to increase the amount of fish I catch, they're also reducing the number of fish caught by other boats. But they don't take this cost into consideration. They're only considering their own private costs and benefits. So we have a negative externality that results in overfishing. So we're catching more fish than is socially efficient, and that can reduce the fish stocks and create serious problems for this renewable resource of fish. So individual transfer quotas try to solve this problem. And what they do, at least the best individual transfer quotas, they have three main properties. And so what the quota is going to do is it's going to entitle each person, each fisherman, to a specific number of a specific fish. So let's say that it says, okay, this particular quota allows you to catch 100 cod. Then that's what you get for that particular quota. And you might have 500 quotas, you might have 1,000 or whatever. But each quota gives you a specific number of a specific fish. But when you add up all the quotas that are given to all the fishermen, you're going to have the socially efficient quantity of fish. So again, let's use cod. Let's say that basically your government says, look, we think that 1 million cod could be caught in any year and that wouldn't create a problem. So if we were to add up the quotas, if everyone who's given a quota, one of these ITQs, it should not exceed 1 million because that's a socially efficient level. Hypothetically, I have no idea how many cod you can catch. However, also the quotas can be bought and sold on open markets, right? So you're basically, what you're doing with ITQ is you're creating a market. You're creating a market, and so one fisherman, let's say one fisherman is given the right to catch 5,000 cod, and let's say that fisherman invests in his boats and he gets to where he's really has low costs in terms of catching fish. He's really good at it, and he could do it cheaply, and some of the other boats haven't really made those investments. So this fisherman could say, look, I'd really like to be able to catch 7,000 cod. So I'm going to go and purchase 2,000 ITQs that will allow me to catch an additional 2,000 cod. And so the other people, if they haven't really invested in technology and to be really good at and efficient at catching cod, then they can sell credits of 2,000 cod to the boat that is really efficient. So it's it gives an incentive to invest in technology, and so that's a real key of the quotas, that they're transferable, they can be bought and sold on the open market. Now, the question is, how do you initially allocate these individual transfer quotas? Who decides, and how do you decide how many quotas that this fisherman gets and that fisherman gets and so forth? So one way you could do it is you could auction them off. So you hold an auction and the highest bidder gets the ITQs, right? So you have a number of people come and they're bidding for the ITQs. That raises revenue for the government. You could use that revenue on any number of things. You could use it on early childhood care. You could use it to repair the boat dock and do maintenance and so forth. But you could also say, well, look, we're going to base it on the historical catch. So the people that caught the most cod in the past, the people who are doing the most fishing, they have the most boats, they're going to get the most ITQs to start with. And then people who didn't catch as much cod, maybe they don't get as much in terms of their quota, their ITQs. And then what happens is new people, so let's say 5 years from now, there's somebody who's a new person and they want to start get into the cod fishing business, then they would have to purchase from somebody who already had ITQs, right? So they basically, like the new entrants to the market, have to purchase from people who already own ITQs. So that's another way of doing it. And now there's some challenges with ITQs. So ITQs have been used in a number of countries, and there's been a lot of success in several of those countries with basically keeping the fish stocks where they're at a sustainable level so that you don't have overfishing and depleting the fish stocks for future generations. So there's been a lot of success, but there are some issues. And one issue is with a thing called bycatch. So bycatch is basically, if you think about a boat, so you've got this boat out there and they throw a net into the water and then they catch any number of fish, right? But some of those fish, let's you go back to our example of cod. Let's say they're trying to catch cod, they might catch a shark, right? They might have some shark in there and they say, hey, we didn't mean to catch this thing. This thing looks nasty. But maybe they say, well, we don't have any quota for sharks, right? We don't have any quota for sharks, so if we bring this shark back to the dock, we're going to get a fine because we have enough quota to bring these cod back, but we don't have any ITQs for sharks, so we're going to get a fine. So let's just take that shark and let's throw it back in the ocean. So let's just release it. But the thing is that the shark might die after it's been caught and pulled into the boat and the net, and then you throw it back. There's a good chance it'll die, and that's actually, they have a phrase for that. It's called release mortality. So if you have really high release mortality, then you're basically creating waste, right? You're creating waste because they caught this fish, but they weren't intending to catch a shark, but they could have used it, maybe shark fin soup or something, but they didn't have an ITQ, and so they say, well, look, we've got to throw it back into the ocean, and it dies anyway. So it's really created waste, and so bycatch is a real issue. Also, another challenge with ITQs is something called high grading. And so high grading is basically with the nature of the quota system, where you can only get so many fish, or you can only get so many pounds, or however it's measured. You basically have an incentive to keep the larger fish and to throw back the smaller fish, right? So if you're keeping, so let's say, and again, we've got the net, we've got this net, and then we catch these different fish, and some of them are small and some are quite large, right? Some are kind of fat. So we keep those fat ones, and then we throw back the tiny ones, or the juveniles, or the skinny fish, however you want to think about it. So we throw those ones back, and so then that becomes waste. So now we've got this issue of basically they're putting a premium on the larger ones, but then the smaller ones, they've already been caught, and then we have that release mortality issue, and basically just dumping them in the ocean. And so people would say, well, one way to deal with these challenges is to just ban discarding of fish. We could just say, look, you can't discard fish, and so if you catch a shark and you don't have an ITQ, I guess you're paying a fine. So you could do that. But another thing you could do is you could basically allow firms to have a temporary overage, or basically to pay for a temporary overage to say, like, okay, we brought this fish back, we happen to have a shark, we didn't have any ITQs for that, but we're going to purchase a temporary overage. We're going to purchase an ITQ or pay some kind of money or some other than a fine. We're going to basically have a system set up where we can say, look, we didn't intend to catch this, or we didn't, and we could buy a little bit extra credit so that we don't get a penalty. And then that basically reduces the amount of waste, but by the same token, it's not forcing the fishermen to be penalized.